Yo, what's up guys, it's Aptrix here. Today in this video I'll be talking about the top 5 best emulators for Android in 2023. Let's get started. On the number 5 spot we have PPSSPP emulator. This emulator has released in 2012 and I can't really believe that it's been more than 10 years. And I remember when I was a kid I used to literally use this emulator every single day to play WWE games and add texture packs like WWE 2K18, 2K17 mod packs. It used to be so crazy back in the days, and till this day people create texture packs for games like FIFA, and all of it can be emulated on the original PSP emulator for Android known as PPSSPP. I believe that till this day it is one of the best emulators ever released. Let's move on towards our next spot, which is the DOLPHIN Emulator Android, and this emulator was released in 2013, so it's been almost 10 years since the release of first ever open source Nintendo Wii and GameCube emulator for Android. Now the DOLPHIN emulator has improved so much that even low-end devices of 2023 can easily emulate. I can't even imagine, like, DOLPHIN emulator was released in 2013 guys, and I remember trying DOLPHIN emulator for the first time in 2018. My device weren't even able to provide like stable 10 to 15 FPS on high-end titles like Call of Duty or Pokemon games, but now it's blessed guys. Like 2023 Android devices can emulate DOLPHIN emulator pretty easily, and right now unfortunately, as you know, DOLPHIN emulator was taken down off Steam after Nintendo issued an DMCA, but nonetheless it's still available on Play Store and it is one of the best emulators which I recommend if you want to try out emulating Wii games or Nintendo GameCube on your Android devices. Now let's move on towards our number 3 spot of today's video. We have my favorite all-in-one emulator for Android which can emulate consoles like PS1, Nintendo, Game Boy, Atari Lynx, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance and much more, including all the way up to Nintendo 3DS, which is super crazy guys. Some of the other consoles which it can emulate are as follows: Sega Genesis, Sega CD, Sega Master System, Sega Game Gear, N64, PSX, even PlayStation Portable, but I still do prefer PPSSPP more than this. Neo Geo Pocket, WonderSwan Color and Nintendo 3DS at the end of all of it. So in 2023, if you want to play retro games, I definitely would go with LEMUROID emulator as it's completely open source, ad free, so I really respect the developer and it is one of the best all-in-one emulators for Android. But don't use it to emulate Nintendo 3DS, because on the number 2 spot we have the best 3DS emulator for Android, official CITRA Android. Now don't use the Play Store version of official CITRA Android, because on the main official website of CITRA Android you can get the latest builds. But let me talk about official CITRA Android's journey. It started back in 2018 I guess, and it was released officially for Android devices in 2020. But there is one another Nintendo 3DS emulator for Android which competes with official CITRA Android, or maybe even better. I'll be talking about it in my next top 5 emulators list. Official CITRA Android receives regular updates. It is compatible with Mali GPU Android devices, namely MediaTek Exynos and Kirin processors. The performance which you get while emulating Nintendo 3DS games on Android is super amazing even on low-end devices, and as 3DS is a newer console compared to all the others we talked about before, CITRA Android still manages to provide better performance and better optimizations overall even for old low-end devices. So that's my pick for number 2. By the way, before we talk about number 1, if you guys are new here, smash that like button. Let's say 250 likes and I'll upload a part 2 video for top 5 best emulators for Android. Now let's move on towards the number 1 spot. We have YUZU Emulator Android, a partially open source Nintendo Switch emulator for Android which is available on Play Store. 2 versions, YUZU Early Access as well as normal YUZU Emulator Android, and the development of this emulator is not really up to the mark for now, but still it is capable of emulating Nintendo Switch games, though it's not really optimized. By the way, the YUZU emulator developers are the same developers who created CITRA emulator, so just keep that in mind. I'm pretty sure that YUZU emulator Android will be optimized a lot in the future, but for now you need an high-end Android device, namely Snapdragon 888 processor or above, if you want to emulate your favorite Nintendo Switch games like Pokemon Sword and Shield, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom and much more like Super Mario Odyssey. You will also need around 6 to 8 GB of RAM, but that's YUZU Emulator Android. It has lot of graphical issues on Adreno 7 series GPU, for example Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 or above processors. So that was my ranking for the top 5 best emulators for Android in 2023. Let me know in the comment section down below which emulator do you guys use regularly in this year. See you guys next time. Peace out.